Are you ready to be in a relationship? Because this video is for you.
Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. I am so happy you guys are joining me here today. Very excited for today's video. For today's video, we have a very special guest. As you guys can see, we have my boyfriend.
Hello, my name is Anthony.
Today I thought it would be fun to have my boyfriend join the video since I wanted to talk about a couple of relationship topics. I first want to get into what dating was like in the past for both of us, and then I also want to get into how we prepared to be in this healthy relationship. I feel like this is one of the healthiest relationships I've ever been in, and I feel like I have learned so much from Anthony, so I would love for him to share his thoughts and ideas. And then also, we're gonna end this video off by just going over key points that I feel are things that we have to focus on when looking for a healthy relationship. Let's start off by actually going over how we even met and how we got here today.
We are here today because of a funny app called Hinge. Hinge is a popular dating app similar to other platforms, not for any bad means, just for meeting people and trying to form relationships. That is what we both had interest in when we joined the platform. And yeah, personally I was on Hinge for some time. Didn't have much success and really didn't enjoy the process. I think you said you kind of had a similar experience, but I was actually on a cruise when, unlike most days, I got a notification that said, "You have a life." And to skip forward, we ended up matching. As soon as I saw her profile, I knew that she would be not only just a beautiful person, but seemed like just a really naturally funny and personable person. And so yeah, we ended up meeting through there, matching, and then what happened from there?
I feel like the first date is definitely necessary to go over, just because I instantly felt at ease with Anthony, which is so different than anyone else that I've ever been with. I almost felt as if I knew him, like I was safe, and it's so weird because I obviously didn't know him. He's a complete stranger to me at this point. But I thought the date was amazing because we went over so many key details, and I feel like I learned so much from you in just a couple of hours. And those first impressions really do matter as well. I feel like I get to know a lot about someone just by that first date, and so I think it was amazing for the both of us. After that, I was just kind of hooked. I'm like, no, I found my person. And yeah, how did you feel after the first date?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I felt like there was an instant connection, and there was no doubt that she met and exceeded every expectation that I could have possibly had for the first date. There's always that concern both ways, I'm sure, that someone may get catfished, and I was the furthest thing from the truth. I was so stunned, so happy to have found this beautiful girl who had some interest in me. And then to find out that she was also like so intelligent, so charismatic, and just such a good person. From only the things we talked about on the first date, I was hooked as well. I knew I needed to see her again, and I was going to do everything in my power to ensure I got that second date, hopefully a third, and a possible fourth. So yeah, I just remember the waiter talking about like how it seemed like we had been dating for some time already.
Yeah, it was our first date, and he went to the restroom, and the waiter was like, I think he asked how many years it's been. I want to say he said married, not even dating. And so that was funny because I was like, it's actually our very first date, and he's like, no way. Just because the way that we were interacting with each other and how we had that instant connection, I'm sure anyone could see it in that moment. And that was definitely the case. Which
I do think it's important to reiterate, like how comfortable I was and how at ease my mind was. Like I think at first you're pretty nervous and you really just want to make sure everything goes well. You don't know how many opportunities and how much time you'll get with this person, and like you said, you have to make a really important first impression. And that first impression from you was like almost perfection. So yeah, I just felt so comfortable. I felt like all the conversations we had were so natural. And one thing I've talked about multiple times since that date, all this time ago now, was just how much she loved the conversation. I'm so used to meeting girls and going on dates where you have to lead the conversation. The conversation will just die if you don't I guess feed the fire constantly. And it was nice to just know that someone else was interested in leading that. And again, it was almost like a challenge to me, like why didn't I come prepared with better questions, because the questions you were asking were so smart and so interesting. Like I knew that you cared, and that was I was so appreciative of that.
I think one is like I knew what I was looking for, so that's why I came with all the questions, because I did not want to waste time.
Same.
And two, I think it really comes down to how interested you are in the person. Like he makes it easy. I feel like I was actually like intrigued and I wanted to know more because of everything that he was presenting.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that too. Like you definitely have some dates, and I think everybody can relate to this, where you want to get out of there as soon as possible, or you just know, like you said, like it's just really not going to be the one, or really going to quite be the match you were expecting, and that's okay. Everyone has that responsibility. Everyone has that ability to decline further dates or further time, and that's for the best. But one thing to mention with that I hope is we can kind of almost conclude this conversation with, is just like, we did meet on Hinge and we did meet through a dating platform, but we are almost like 35 minutes away from each other. If you were to open a map of Vegas, and maybe you can do this in post-editing, but
yes,
my house is over here, and then if you open a map and look at like the corner of Vegas, I'm here, and then she is here, and we are 35 minutes apart, which I know compared to any long distance couple is nothing, and very grateful to have each other in the flesh as much as possible. But there's almost just no way we would have run into each other naturally. And even if we had, for the split second that we did, would we have either had the confidence or clarity to know that either of us were interested in each other? And so I'm thankful for a platform that did open the opportunity for us to get together and lead to hopefully a lifelong connection.
Yes. So for me specifically, I've talked lots about the relationships that I've been in the past on my other YouTube videos. So if you guys do want to just kind of learn a little bit more of where I'm coming from, there's definitely other things that you guys can watch. I'm going to leave them in the description box down below, but I'll give you guys a rundown. I feel like for the most part, I was always with very toxic people, and my relationships were always toxic relationships because of that. And I do have to take some self-accountability in all of this and just realize that I was also someone who lacked self-love. And because I lacked self-love, I feel like I lacked self-respect as well. I was also someone who didn't know what I was looking for, so I had no standards. I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know, what to look out for or what the red flag should be, because I was just unaware. I was just going into dating without a game plan, if you will. There were a couple of red flags, I guess internally, like things that I was just not okay with, but I didn't know how to kind of communicate that to my partners. I kind of just accepted these things. And so I feel like that's why I ended up in the places that I was at. But before, I was in this relationship, I honestly was very stressed out. I was always like doubting if this was gonna go anywhere. I had like lots of questions about the future. I didn't really know if the person that I was with loved me back in the same way that I loved them. Just overall, I feel like my relationships before Anthony were very negative. I wasn't really getting much out of them. And I even got to a point where I was doubting if I was ever gonna find someone who aligned with the things that I held in my heart and my beliefs and my standards. I almost felt as if I was gonna have to settle at some point. And to be quite honest with you guys, I did not see a future with any of these people. And I think it's very important to say that my desire ever since I've been little, which is kind of crazy, but I've always wanted to be a mom. Like that has always been my dream. And so when it comes to dating, I've always very heavily considered, can this be like a future father to my future children? And if I'm being honest, whenever I asked that question with anyone before him, it was a definite no. I just couldn't see it. And as soon as I, got into this relationship, it was completely different. Just overall, not a good experience for me before meeting Anthony.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I just feel like I was given such a lens of clarity when dahennne came into my life in terms of my short-term goals and also my long-term goals of becoming a father, having a family. It's something that has always been the forefront of my relationships, because I know that, just like you mentioned, we are young and we do have plenty of time to make experiences and grow and things like that. But with my personal plans that I think we've talked about together, that schedule doesn't necessarily allow for a lot of just dating for fun.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I think that can be overrated oftentimes.
Yeah.
I think people get hurt.
Yeah.
People don't have their expectations set clearly. One person thinks that this relationship is this, while another person thinks this relationship is something else. So being extremely vocal about our relationship and our attention with each other has been, I think, a priority at all times. But Yeah, again, in summary too, I would say that I haven't had that clarity or that image of a future with a partner before. I would think that maybe this is someone I could spend time with, but like you said, I'm compromising or I'm settling. And other things that I thought were just normal. I thought you had to settle in order to be with the person of your dreams. But then I met you, and I was quickly, taught or shown that that is not the case. The right person will be there for you 24/7 and care for you without condition. And it's hard to find and hard to believe that person's out there when so long you're either with the wrong person or you're alone. Either way, I think those are important and key factors of growing to where we are today, which is actually going to lead us into our next subject. We did a lot of things, okay? We had a lot of time. I'll speak for myself, I had a lot of time. But it's good time. Time to grow, to be independent. Time to heal. Time to resolve any of those concerns, or maybe even obtain closure for the things that you maybe didn't go too well in your past relationships. It feels like one of the most challenging things or most difficult things you could do in the start of a new relationship is bring in previous baggage to just start off on the wrong foot. And so we agreed that when growing into a positive and a healthy relationship, it's so important to be self-healed. And so tell us a little bit about what self-healing looks like for you and how you practice that in your own life.
Yeah, so in the past, like I said, I was in toxic relationships. So a lot of my self-healing had to do with building myself back up after being broken down. And so that was directly tied to self-love and self-respect. I started on this self-love journey and defining what that even meant. What I say in a lot of my other videos is that I remember hearing about self-love when I was younger, and I didn't understand what that looked like. I'm like, am I gonna hug myself? Am I gonna kiss myself? Because I always related self-love to romantic love, and so I had no idea, no concept of what that was. And I had to figure out that self-love is about viewing yourself as someone who is deserving of love, viewing yourself as someone who is worthy of love and respect. So for me, I had to even go way back into my past, like my childhood, because there were things that I heard in my childhood that made me feel inadequate. And so I had to go back and figure out what those things were. And then I had to work on healing all of those areas. Some of those areas were very intense, so they did require speaking to a therapist. And then other issues I was able to resolve just by a simple Google search and just practicing little practical things that would help me out. So that was the main thing, is making sure that I was aware of the fact that I was unhealed. I was broken. I had lots of wounds. And so because I had those wounds, I had to find ways to fix them. And it's just about being intentional towards fixing these things. We're all broken. We all have some kind of thing that affects us. We all have insecurities. What's important is what you're going to do about those things.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's really important to grow individually before trying to grow with someone else. And so those are things that I also just added into my routine, trying to become as mentally tough, emotionally tough, and even as physically tough to get myself into the position that I am here in today, in both my maturity, my mental strength, and my ability to just love and grow. And so, yeah, again, it didn't come easy. Those are things that took a lot of time, took a lot of forgiveness, and a lot of learning. I think it's easy to sit back and just say that what you provide or what you bring to the table is enough. And yeah, that is okay for some relationships, but why not bring your best self and imagine your partner brings their best self, and you can both become the best versions of yourself together. So
yes.
It is important to challenge yourself, to go out of your comfort zone, to know that it's okay to make mistakes. And that's why we date, that's why we have relationships. And because if we didn't have those before, we wouldn't be the people we are in today. And I feel
Absolutely.
like we're the perfect versions of ourselves for this time in life.
Yes.
And I think it's a non-stop preparation, really.
Yes, and I think that's something that we always say to each other, is that I'm glad I'm dating you now. I wouldn't have wanted him to date the, 16-year-old version of myself, or even the 21-year-old version of myself, because I wasn't at the point that I'm at now. And that came after I was intentional in my season of being single and of being alone, of building myself back up, of finding out what is a high quality man going to be looking for in a woman, right? I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I can to prepare to connect with that kind of individual.
Absolutely. Yeah, you never know when that person's going to come into your life. And again, that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges about this preparation and all of this is that you don't really have like a timeline at times. Like you can't force a positive relationship. You can't force meeting the person of your dreams. These are things that just have to happen, and you have to trust that there is a plan and that, like many things in life, that preparation will pay off.
So we have a couple of things that we want to go over when it comes to key things that we should be looking for in a healthy relationship. These are going to be your list of standards. So if you guys want to go ahead and add some into your list, that would be amazing. These are things that we feel make our relationship work out, make it healthy. We say that we have so much fun with each other. We genuinely enjoy each other's company. I feel like Anthony is my best friend. I love spending time with him. We can be doing absolutely nothing, and I just feel like I'm happy. I'm at home. He never makes me feel like terrible, which is something that I felt which is something I felt so much with other people. That was like normal to me. Being sad, being depressed, being stressed, being anxious was a normal thing for me in the past. So to think that now, I'm like, dang, like this is how it feels to be with the right person, where you don't feel those things. You feel at peace, you feel at home. Everything is just so good. Even when it's not good, we find ways to make it good, because that's the thing. Like, and we're gonna get into that if we actually want to start off with that standard or that thing, that key factor. I feel like is effective conflict resolution, because let's be honest, we are human beings, and he's going to do things that are probably gonna annoy me, and I'm gonna do things that annoy him. And so how do we work through that? I think that is very important to go over when it comes to having a healthy relationship.
Right, and I think one of the main things when it comes to conflict may be compromise. Compromise is incredibly important. Being able to listen, understand where the other person is coming from, getting their perspective, and not just being so stuck on what you believe is right, but being open to the idea that you might be wrong, because trust me, I am wrong a lot. I don't like admitting it, but I am wrong quite often. But that's why compromise is so important, is because you have to be able to find a happy middle for both you and your partner, because neither of you are necessarily wrong all the time. You both may be right in one way or another, and then finding that middle ground where you're both right, that's the perfect spot. That's where you find your happiness, and that's where you find the person you love.
Which is so funny you mentioned that, because after we have conflict, I never feel like it's like, oh well, I had to give something up for you. I had to compromise like all of this for you, and you end up winning. No, I always feel like, no, I understand you, you understand me, and we're good.
And yeah, it's important to say, like, you're not conceding in every situation. Every situation doesn't necessarily need a compromise either. But it is important that when you are trying to work through conflict and trying to resolve those issues, that you do have the ability to meet in the middle, or again, concede when you're wrong.
Yes, because something else that I wanted to mention was, we always hear this, and I feel like it rings so true, but it's not like us against each other, it's us against the issue. So we're not fighting each other. Like, we love each other. We want to show each other that we love each other and we care about each other. And so whenever conflict does arise, we don't want conflict to take over in a way where we are turning against each other and we are fighting with each other. We want to go ahead and say, okay, what's the issue at hand? What's in front of us? Why are we upset? So when you point that out, now we can come together as a team and try to confront the issue. And that way we're not butting heads or like hating each other or resenting each other for it in the future.
And I think with that also just comes like respect. Having that ultimate love, care, admiration, and just trust in your partner all ties into respect. I think once you lose that, or once you lose one of those kind of like, I guess, branches of respect, what do you have?
Honestly.
And so speaking kindly to each other, treating each other with love and respect, like we said.
Not cheating on each other. Like, it's just basic things that you would think are basic, but that a lot of people do. It's just like, if anything is gonna hurt Anthony, I don't want to do that. It doesn't make sense to me when we do certain things or we complain about things that our partners want us to consider. It should be easy to respect your partner. It should come as a given, because you love that person, and I feel like love is heavily tied to respect, honestly. If someone disrespects you, that person does not love you, and if someone loves you, they will respect you.
Exactly, and I think that speaks just to respect perfectly, and I want to kind of connect those two things to like appreciation too, where if someone does love and respect you, they will do things for you, and vice versa. And it's important to just be appreciative of those things and to be expressive with that as well.
Yes, we are humans that naturally appreciate a little bit of praise, like, hey, thank you for doing this. And also you thanking your partner lets them know that you enjoyed that, and so they will continue to do that. It's so important to communicate in a relationship too. We can get more into communication in all aspects, but when it comes to communicating your appreciation to your partner, make sure you're adamant about that, because I feel like that also helps keep the spark alive in the relationship. We didn't even talk about how long we've been together in the beginning of this video, but we've been together for about 10 months now. So yes, it's only been 10 months. We still have a lifetime together. It's just that constant reminder to your partner that you are thankful for them, and that you love them, and that you are very happy and pleased with what they're doing for you. I feel like that's what is very heavily tied to keeping the spark alive.
Yeah, I think one thing we talk about sometimes is you just want to water your plant. And what that means in this case here is this relationship is constantly in need of little drops of water, or
yes,
little sessions of watering where we can come together and heal.
It's so true, because in order for a plant to grow, it needs water and it needs sunlight. And so you have to essentially be pouring into that little plant for it to expand and to just be, you know, the most beautiful plant ever.
And there are going to be lots of days where you forget to water the plant. You forget to put in your 100% effort. And that's where the word grace comes from. It's so important to have grace in a relationship, because there's not every day you're gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
There's gonna be days where you're tired, or you had a bad day at work, or something else happened that, you know, outside of the relationship, some exterior motive or altercation impacted your personal ability to perform in this relationship. But that's where, as a partner, you have to have that grace,
yes,
and that ability to support them in their weakest times.
Which is why emotional regulation and emotional intelligence is so incredibly important. Overall, just better understanding yourself and your emotions is going to help you understand when your partner is having a hard time themselves, because that is a part of being a human being. I'm not expecting you to show up 100% all the time, and when you show up 40, I'm your partner, I'm gonna show up 60 for you, just like I know you're gonna show up, you know, 80 for me when I'm showing up 20, because that's what it's all about. It's all about being a team and being a partnership and being here for each other and loving each other and showing up for each other when the other can't show up for, you know, even themselves sometimes.
True, and it does. It happens all the time. But that's, again, those are some of the many positives of being in a relationship. Is times where you would have been alone by yourself when you're single, and you may not have had that partner. You still maybe have friends and family, but you don't have that emotional partner to support you in ways that others maybe can't.
Yeah.
And so there's so many perks. But let's talk about a couple subjects that people are more familiar with, such as like your love language. So how do you feel like how important that is, and how do you make efforts to adhere to those like people's love languages?
Love languages are such a beautiful thing. And there's a book that you can read. I read the book and it helps me out so much. I've read it like 4 times already, and I still learn something new after each read. But the point is that there are these 5 love languages. So just like with normal language, if I spoke Japanese, right, and he spoke Spanish, and we are trying to have a conversation with each other, right, with no translator, it would be a little bit hard for us to understand each other. It would be a little bit hard for me to know what he is telling me. And so love languages is a little bit similar, because it's essentially saying that we all have a specific love language, that there's a specific way that we all receive love. And so I might be trying to love on my partner in the best way possible, in the way that I know how to love him, and the way that I would want someone to love me. But because he is his own individual with his own experience, his own background, he essentially might not have that same love language. He might not feel love when I say, oh my gosh, I love you so much. And he might feel love when I buy him gifts, right? And so we have to learn what our partner's love language is, because we want to make sure that we're showing up in the way that is best suit for them if we actually do love them. And we also want to know what love languages are when it comes to understanding ourselves, because we want to be able to communicate to our partner what makes us feel happy and what makes us feel loved and seen.
And there are many fun resources that tell you what love language best connects to you as a person. It's a great way to find out if you don't already know. It may actually give you some more success in your future relationships. But on top of your love language, there are core values, and these are things that are extremely important and really define a person beyond just a language or something of that sort. And so what are some examples of the core values that you find so important?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, I think religion is something that has to be heavily considered. I wanted to make sure that I was with someone who believed in God. I'm currently going through my own deconstruction journey, as you guys know by the videos that I post on this channel. So although I'm still questioning things about my faith, I think it's very important that I still believe in God and that I want a partner who also believes in God and kind of has faith in that higher power. And also because I'm thinking of having kids with him. So I want to make sure that we are setting up an environment where we can kind of be on the same page when it comes to those things, because I feel like it overcomplicates things when you do start to see relationships where one person heavily believes in one thing but the other person heavily believes in something completely different.
And so religion is one very important core value. There are so many more out there, but it's important to try to have those core values aligned, because it does feel that if you don't have some of those really critical elements such as religion, political views, things of that nature, you might find yourself kind of butting heads on these really important life decisions. And like you mentioned, when you're trying to build a family and potentially the rest of your life with this person, you want to make sure you guys can agree on some of those very critical or controversial subjects, if you will.
Yeah, I also think that it's so important because it ties to, like he said, there's a lot of bickering that goes on. I've experienced it myself. I've seen other relationships where they both disagree heavily on these very important things, and so it's causing a lot of tension within the relationship. The frustration behind the fact that you guys don't believe the same thing about these very important issues causes that tension.
And it may even develop into resentment.
Yes.
And once that develops to resentment, it almost feels that there's no turning back.
And also, if you want to build a family with this person, that's so important to consider, because if we're not stable as a unit and as a relationship, then it's going to heavily affect our future kids. And that's something that I feel like we both heavily consider, and something that we don't want to do to our future children is affect them with our issues or be so unstable ourselves that now they are feeling that, and it's affecting their view on love and on future relationships and even in standards, because we actually get some of our standards from the things that we saw growing up in our home. That's why we ultimately want to make sure that we are healthy as a unit.
And so with all those things, you're looking to build a future. You're looking to find your forever. And here we are, November 17th, 2024, doing everything we can to be the best and healthiest versions of ourselves, having healed ourselves, having taken the time to grow independently, and then prepare ourselves for meeting the right person. It's a process. It takes a lot of time. But we are here today with the girl of my dreams, and that's all I can ask for.
Yes, I agree. You are most definitely the man of my dreams. I always tell you guys this in my other videos, so you guys already know, but I love this man so much. He came into my life and he added so much beauty and just so much positivity and light, and I feel like I had an idea of this dream person, and he exceeded all of my expectations. And I am constantly happy and fulfilled by this relationship. I can't complain. I mean that wholeheartedly. But yes, guys, that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about in today's video. It's just some of the ways in which we prepare to be in a healthy relationship, and some of the key things that we believe are necessary to consider when being in a romantic relationship.
And so I'm so happy to have made an appearance on Dahenne's channel here today. I love supporting her. I love celebrating her. I love doing what makes her happy, and I know how important this channel is and you guys are to her. I hear all about it all the time. I hope we were able to bring a little bit of education, a little bit of perspective, and a little bit of our experiences when it comes to dating and what we like to hopefully have as a healthy and long-term relationship.
With all of that being said, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.